And hello, welcome to Solo Playthroughs. We got a good one today. The first video of Streetmasters to be on the channel. That is correct. Another new game for y'all. This was first put on my radar by a patron. I believe it was Andy, and it has come up a couple of more times as I have journeyed through this crazy world of solo board gaming, and I do like it. I simultaneously like this game and am somewhat disappointed by it. So it's a weird place to be. Seriously, if there is a board game theme that should have just been a home run for me out the box, it is this game. I am a child of the 80s. I grew up on Van Damme movies. I grew up on Steven Seagal movies. I loved me some Karate Kid. I loved everything about those really terrible 80s movies. Good and bad, they were my jam for a long time. Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of it, just amazing. And this game brings all of the tropes of a lot of those 80 movies to bear in the villains and how they're put together, in the stories and the narrative. And it's very cool. Nostalgia is a very strong drug, right? So to have that nostalgia kind of come out and give me all these emotional ties to parts of this game should make this game just an amazing experience. But perhaps it's because of that nostalgia, I just wanted it to be a bit better. I find some of the ideas in this game just a little bit half-baked, and half-baked's probably a little harsh. Put this in context. There's a lot about this game that's similar to Sentinels of the Multiverse. Don't love Sentinels. I liked it. I put it on the channel a couple of times. It's fine. I've really bounced off of it. It really didn't have what it needed to kind of keep me interested and keep me coming back to that game. I'll come back to Street Masters for a while. So in that sense, it has kind of replaced Sentinels for me. If I want a game where I have a villain deck and a hero deck and I have a stage deck and I want to see the interesting interplays between those and I want to do some interesting card combos, great. This would be the game for me. When it comes to some of the game parts, I just find it doesn't come together for me fully. I find the villains a little bit too easy to beat when you're playing true solo, but there's so much more going on in this than Sentinels, in a sense that I don't think I would love playing multiplayers. I don't know if I would love playing this co-op though. So that kind of falls between a lot of those things for me. With the retail version of the game, you have these two stories. They're good. What's weird about the stories that tell you different setups and take you through a narrative is that at the same time, you're supposed to be going through the player stories. So I'm going to be playing as Brandon today. The story I'm playing through is Island Getaway. Finally awake? Well, I'm going to read that later. And what you're going to find out is Brandon is in trouble because he has been taken captive and now he's on some island. But if I'm supposed to simultaneously start his player story, well, it sounds like he's on a movie set and he's talking about sipping a macchiato. And there's just such a crazy dissonance between the stories that it's like, what the heck is going on? So for me, it's such a thematic miss. I won't play his player story ever because I don't like the way it meshes with either of the two stories that came with the main game. Now, could I just get over it or like, oh, it's a flashback? Sure. But then mechanically, why are these certain allies there when I'm in captivity on an island and there's supposed to be a movie crew? Like, none of that really makes sense in a way that I find very off-putting. And then you can get into the practicalities of this game. These things are rubber. And if they were a wee bit bigger, it might have been a great idea. But the way they are, these things are awful. And I've stretched them out a little bit over time. I know a lot of people will get paint pens and they paint their bases and just kind of make it work a lot better. But the rubber was just kind of a bad idea. Again, my rubber is stretched out a bit because I just left it on minis for days to make it better over time. And I found that worked for me, but I still might pick up some paint pens to do that. And the tray that comes with the retail version of this game, this one's fine. The problem is the only way it fits in the box is underneath the other tray, and it's just a disaster. And I'm not even going to put that thing on camera, but it is one of the worst designs of an insert I've ever seen in board gaming. And I've seen a lot of bad ones because it's like, here's this amazing card tray, but it's attached to this other thing where the minis go, but you have to take that whole thing out to get to this, and it just doesn't make any sense. how that was even a thing that someone thought was a good idea. I found a system that works for me, but it was a giant pain, and I still don't like taking the game out and putting it back in its box. And in the world of board games today, again, there are just so many options. Like some small things like that are going to be enough for me to be like, I'm going to prefer to play this other game instead of this, right? I guess it's weird that I'm starting this video and being decidedly negative. I'm not even going to try to candy coat it. Those are kind of my problems with this game. That said, there's some really fun combos that can be pulled off. I do like the way the dice work. I do like the way the different scenarios make things pretty interesting, even if there are a few things about every scenario and or villain that I find a little wacky and a little cheesy. And part of the cheese is good, right? I mean, the 80s were full of cheese. The inspiration for this game, the movies that inspired this game, which seems pretty clear, were super cheesy. And that works. And there is a great game to be had here. The loot's kind of fun. The enemies are fun. There's a lot of mechanics that are really fun. And there is a chance that we're definitely going to get killed. I mean, you get a couple of bad cards or a couple of bad events at the wrong time, and you're just not set up for it. You could definitely find yourself losing these scenarios. I do think we need to try this with multiple heroes and see, or it could just be Brandon is just stronger in his ability to do damage than the other heroes. That could be a big part of it. But I find that at some point on Brandon's turns, it's not going to be that hard for him to be able to stack on 10 plus damage. And when the boss only has 20, and when all you need to do to win is get 20, it's like, okay, what's going on, right? Why wasn't this a little bit more stacked that it made it a little bit harder? Or really was this a game that you really shouldn't choose solo, that you should play multiple players to give the boss more health and create more dynamism on the board? But that's still weird because then each fighter is still going to have a turn before the boss activates. So I feel like that in some ways is going to make it easier. Like, I don't know. I'm very torn about Street Masters, guys, and I don't like it because I really want to love this game. So if you've heard all this and you sat through that diatribe and you still want to see it, that's awesome. We're going to play it and I'm going to have fun because it's a game and I'm going to have fun with it. And if I didn't like it at all, I just want to put it on the channel. That's just not how I operate. Every game I've put on the channel, I liked it at some level when I put it on. Now, there are definitely some I've bounced off pretty hard since, Robinson Crusoe being at the lead of that list. And perhaps First Martians was the one game that I put on when I actively did not like playing it at the time I put it on the channel. This is not that. This is a game I like. I thought I was going to love. I was prepared to like find out how to get the rest of the expansion content and spend a small fortune to get it. And I'm good though. This is it. This is where Street Masters ends for me, barring something very unusual. But again, if this is your game, this is your jam, and you're like, Greg, you're missing all of it, please put that in the comment section below. I would love to know how to make this experience better for me. Right now, I find it better than Sentinels for me. I like the theme more. Again, I think a big part of the disconnect with Sentinels and the multiverse for me was that I'm not a big superhero comic book dude. This theme, like, oh, cheesy martial arts, big bazookas, crazy larger than life villains. All of that works for me, especially some of these locations and location decks are super, super cool. And I just kind of love how that all comes together. But we are going to go to the Island Getaway Part 1 Prologue. I'm going to start this off the way that all these videos should start in my mind, with my dulcet tones reading through the story deck. Here we go. Story deck Part 1 Prologue for the Island Getaway. Finally awake. That's the first thing you hear after the splash of stale water jolts you awake. You have no idea how long you've been a hostage of the Brotherhood, the ruthless band of mercenaries, but you'd guess it's been at least a few days. Your simple recon mission turned south, and now you've been enduring the Brotherhood's tortures as they've tried to get everything they could out of you. You've held out for now, but don't know how long you'll be able to keep it up. Dmitrii unsheathes his knife, running it along his fingers as he stares you down. I will give you this one chance to come clean before we start our procedures again. Your silence is deafening as you stare at the floor. Very well, he sneers. I won't be gone for too long, comrades. Don't get comfortable. He exits, and as soon as the door closes behind him, you begin working at your bonds. Every single story card at the bottom tells you some setup instructions. So first it says right to remain silent. That is the name of the location that we're at. And the retail version of the game comes with 8 different locations. So when you get the location out, you find which side of which of these boards says whatever it says here. So right to remain silent, here we go. So that goes on the board. After a colon, it says the Brotherhood. The base game comes with 3 different enemy decks. So you have the Brotherhood, you have the Kingdom, and you have the Golden Dragons. They're all very different. They're all very cool. Golden Dragons are probably the hardest I've found so far, but still a little bit for me to explore here with this game. Now it says stage setup, put this card in the enemy play area. What does that mean? Well, there's a bunch of play areas that are going to be around this board. Right in front of me is the fighters play area. And there are basically 2 parts of that. We have the play area and then the threat area. So I guess there's only 1 play area, but above that will be the threat area. In the play area, we're going to have cards that give us some special abilities, cards that enhance the abilities we already have, and things like that. In the threat area, we're going to put some minions of the boss. We're going to put some various scenario cards and other effects that are going to take place during the scenario that makes our life very hard. So I'm going to take this card, and because it tells me to put this in the enemy play area, we're putting it over here. I'm going to put the rest of this deck aside, and now we can talk about this whole enemy play area. The enemy play area is comprised of the draw deck of the enemy who is in play in this scenario. That is the Brotherhood. Dmitrii is the boss. So whenever you get the enemy deck, you find the boss and you put them on the space on your location that has that boss symbol. Every boss has a mini, but I'm going to replace the mini with these little tokens that we have for allies and rivals and the sort. And we're not going to see any allies and rivals at this point. Allies and rivals come into play, it seems, a little bit more with the hero story decks. And since we're not doing that, we will miss that opportunity because, again, I don't know why Brandon would have a macchiato if he was captive by Dmitrii. Dmitrii does not seem like the macchiato type. So we're going to put Dmitrii's little ugly face there, and we're going to put it on the villain side face up. So that's our boss. The boss card gives us some information. One, we see that he has 20 health per player. Then we see what he would roll when he attacks. There's a 4 with 4 white dice. These are the enemy attack dice. When you roll, there are 3 different types of sides. 1/3 of these sides, so 2 out of 6, math majors, has a punch. So that is a punch attack. We have a open hand, so it's a grapple attack, and then we have a foot. That is a kick attack. If you have any block tokens, which we'll get to, you can only block a attack if the block token matches the symbol shown on those dice. So if I have a kick block and I rolled this exact roll, I'd be able to take this kick block and prevent the damage from that die. If I do that, I additionally can flip that over and that becomes power. If I ever get 5 power playing as Brandon, I flip over and now I'm on my supercharged side. Very exciting. So if this exact attack went through and all I had was that kick block token, well, I'm only blocking 1 of the 4 damage that comes in, and I would have to take 3 more damage, 1 for each of the other 3 dice. If I ever hit 20, which is the number of my health, then I am defeated. We immediately lose the scenario, and everyone's very sad that Dmitrii has won and I have lost, and it would be a very terrible day for Brandon and Brandon's family and Brandon's girlfriend and, you know, the whole 9 yards. So we're going to try to avoid all of that sorrow and try to reign victorious here today. Now, getting back to Dmitrii. So Dmitrii has an activate ability, and then there's an equip ability. When we get to the enemy turn every round, we're going to go through that and you'll see how all that works. But again, a little bit like Sentinels, you're basically reading the card, doing what it says. It's not rocket science. The rest of this deck from the Brotherhood is going to be a combination of 13 minions and a few other cards that say gear on them or event. The gear cards are going to go into play by Dmitrii. The events are going to be done and then discarded, generally speaking. And the minions will go into play in our threat area. If it was a multiplayer game, the minions would go into the threat area of the hero who draws that minion. The beginning of my turn, I will always draw 1 card from this deck and we will put it in the appropriate spot. If we ever defeat a minion, we draw one of these handy dandy loot cards. These loot cards can be very helpful. They can give us extra health. They can give us extra power tokens. More important than that, though, is they allow us to do some extra damage. and that can really help make a good attack into a great attack, so forth and so on. Some of these will allow us to exhaust the minion, which effectively makes the minion skip a turn, and that is also very helpful. So I'm going to shuffle this loot deck up, and finally, let me talk about these 13 minions. Out of these 13 minions, there are only 3 different molds, but they are going to be color coordinated. So if I draw a picture of this amazingly sexy man with a mohawk, I'm going to see if the card is red, blue, yellow, green, or purple. And then I'm going to take the corresponding minion and I'm going to put it on the spawn spot closest to where I am. Notice that Brandon I already have on this board. I put him on the joystick symbol. That is basically where you need to start. There are other symbols on the board. These things are going to be identified by the location card, so we'll get to that. And then these tokens are loot tokens. If I ever walk over a loot token, I get to immediately take it off the board and pull a loot card. That does not end my movement, so I can be in the middle of my movement and move one, get a loot token, and then finish off my movement. And we'll talk about how movement works when we get more into the gameplay. The other spaces that you see on here that have like the light colors with a gear symbol, those are where objectives go. Every location has objectives, how they work and what they do and how to activate them and how they integrate with the story of the scenario. It just all depends. But again, we'll read through all of that. I'm going to shuffle up my deck here. Brandon's deck consists of equipment cards. It consists of tactic cards. It consists of like one-time events. It consists of abilities, and we'll see how that all works out. The one thing I should note about Brandon himself, Brandon's basic attack when he's using the action on his card, which is back fist, is considered a punch attack. So if you're attacking an enemy that has punch block tokens, you will have to discard those tokens. If you have any remaining damage that has not been blocked by a punch token at a 1-to-1 ratio, then you can go ahead and start dealing damage to that enemy. A lot of that's really intuitive. I do like the combat system. I think it's very clever. You'll note that while the enemies roll white dice, the fighters will actually go ahead and roll red dice. The red dice have 3 different symbols as well, but they are very different than the enemy dice. The symbols that have that little like firework thing, that is 1 damage. That makes sense. If you roll the 2 concentric circles that are like fiery, that is a critical hit. You would actually count that as 1 damage and then roll again. If you roll the shield, you can take a defense token corresponding to the type of attack that you're doing. So if I roll 3 dice and I rolled that and that, I would do 1 damage. And if it was a punch attack, then I would get 2 punch defense tokens. And there is 1 side on each die that is a shield and a damage. Now, to use the language of the rule book, note that the shield is called a guard. I'm going to draw 4 cards as my starting hand, and similar to like Arkham Horror and other games, I can mulligan as many of these cards as I want. So I pulled Chameleon Stance, I pulled Viper Jab, I pulled Flip Kick, I pulled Nunchaku Grab. Now, Nunchaku Grab and Viper Jab are attacks. Flip Kick is an ability. These are all one-time card plays. They would then go into my discard pile. However, Chameleon Stance is a tactic. Tactic cards, just like in Sentinels of the Multiverse, are cards that now I can put in play. However, you'll note that it has a star there. I can only have 1 Chameleon Stance in play at a time. Every card tells you what kind of attack it is. So Nunchaku Grab is a grapple attack. So the enemies would need to have those kind of defense tokens to prevent any damage from that. The Viper Jab is a punch attack. One of the things that Brandon does is that he does a lot of combo effects. So his action on his card says attack with one of these red dice. Then you may reveal 1 card from my hand to resolve its combo effect. I don't think it makes sense for me to read all these cards, so we'll get into all those dynamics as we get deeper into the gameplay. But I do need to decide which of these cards I'm keeping. I'm obviously going to keep Chameleon Stance. I don't really love the rest of these, so I'm going to draw 3 more cards. We get another Nunchaku Grab, we get a half-inch punch, and we get a Dragon's Teeth. So 2 more attacks and an ability. I think there's 20 cards in this deck, and there's almost 3 copies of pretty much every card in here. So you will see a lot of duplicates as the game progresses. And I just counted, there's actually 24. So I think there's 8 different cards and there's 3 copies of each. Let's set up the scenario now. So we are in the right to remain silent location. Stage setup. Remove escape prisoners and recover intel from the stage deck and place them in the stage play area. Place each objective token in its corresponding space, inactive side up, shuffle the stage deck. So I'm going to do all of that. So the objective tokens in this scenario actually start on the game board. They don't always. So I put the red there. Inactive side means with the black gear face up. If it's active, it would be on the white side. The yellow goes there. The green is going to go all the way up there. And the blue goes here. The purple is going to go up there. I'm going to put this in the stage play area as it says. There are stage rules on the back of it. I need to shuffle the deck for the stage. The stage rules say that each of these spaces is a wall and is treated as a block space by all figures. When counting for range for effects, do not count through walls. Blocking works the same way it does in a lot of games. Fighters can move through other fighters, but they are blocked by minions. Minions can move through other minions, but they are blocked by fighters. Again, fighters would be Brandon and any of his friends if they were also in play. The boss is not blocked by anything when it's advancing. However, all figures, fighters, minions, and the boss are blocked when they are in retreat mode. A lot of the rules in this game I do not find to be the most intuitive as you're learning, but they make more and more sense as you play. I do think there could have been a lot of tweaking to the language and the rule set to make this a little bit easier to get into. That said, it's not the most complicated of games to learn. It's just got some aspects that are like, that's just not worded well at all. And, you know, it is what it is. That especially comes up when you're playing with allies and rivals and things like that. So happily, we will not be doing any of that. However, I will take this moment as I'm talking about rules to say that if there are any rules I have incorrect, please do not hesitate to put that in the comment section below if you are an experienced lover of this game. And as I say all the time, when I'm newly featuring a game, please come back and check the comment section in about a week, because if I made any mistakes, they are sure to have made appearance in the comment section. And I do have a habit of editing my pinned comment in all my videos to point out any rules mistakes I may or may not have made. These are complicated games and mistakes happen. I try very hard to make sure that they are kept to a minimum. So hopefully I have succeeded in this specific instance with this specific game. So I'm putting the right to remain silent stage up there. The stage rules I already read about the wall. Each objective token is an escaped prisoner that is treated as a figure. So we're not alone in being imprisoned by Dmitrii and all his evilness. Now, why Dmitrii said he was leaving and he'd be back soon, but he's still just sitting in the center of this room, I don't know what's going on, man. I guess it makes sense for the 80s, right? It's just like you're watching a movie full of plot holes, but come on, man. What is happening here? I mean, at least I'm not sipping my macchiato. So the objective tokens represent escaped prisoners. When an enemy picks up an objective, the objective reference card remains in the stage play area. Each enemy may only carry one objective at a time. Activate. Place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. And then it says interact. Choose an inactive enemy. The chosen objective moves up to 3 spaces and attacks. Then discards 1 power from recovered intel. That was a lot. I'm sure a bunch of that did not make sense if you're new to this game, but I will explain it all as we start moving along. It says that we're supposed to put both escaped prisoners and recovered intel into play in the stage play area. So escaped prisoners, they attack with 3 white dice. So they will attack with the same dice that the enemy uses. And it says when an enemy carrying this objective suffers 1 or more damage, that enemy drops this objective. Because naturally, if you're trying to carry a human being who is struggling against you, when you get punched in the gut by me, or punched in the face more likely, because these are punch attacks, not grapple attacks, you would just do the natural thing and just drop the prisoner that you're trying to carry. There's an activate ability on the escape prisoners card that says each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. Recovered intel, it's a stage condition. If there were ever 10 power on this card, the fighters lose. Activate. For each inactive objective, choose 1 different enemy nearest that objective that is not carrying an objective. Move each chosen enemy 3 spaces toward the nearest objective. Then each enemy picks up an objective in an adjacent space. That will go right there. Again, I will explain all of that as we go. This card is actually really good. I do like a good player aid, and this one is one of the best I've ever seen. This will walk you through the fighter turn. When we're done with the fighter turn, we're going to flip it over. Then we'll have the enemy turn. Then we'll have the stage turn. And then we go back to the fighter turn. Rinse and repeat until either we and by we, I mean Brandon or Dmitri, the boss man himself, are defeated. During the fighter turn, there are 3 phases. There's a threat phase in which we will actually refresh all the cards in our player area, and then we will draw 1 card from the enemy deck. Then there is the act phase. During the act phase, we can do 3 actions in any order. 1 action is a move step, so we can move up to 3 spaces. 1 is going to be a card step, so we can play a card from our hand, either playing a card down, like Chameleon Stance, now gives us a tactic and gives us more options for future turns, or playing a card like this, where this is an event, it's an attack, it's done, it will just go on my discard pile. All those count as play. Finally, we have the action step. So we can perform an action on one of our cards, right? We have an action on Brandon's main card, Backfist. I can do an attack and then reveal a card from my hand to resolve its combo effect. There's a sprint action, which basically allows us to move again. So we would be able to move 6 on our turn, not just a 3. There's a defend action where we would roll 2 of the white dice and we would get defense tokens matching the dice faces that we rolled. And finally, there is the interact action. So anything that has an interact ability, we already saw one in the stage rules. Interact, we can choose an inactive objective. The chosen objective moves up to 3 spaces and attacks, then discard 1 power from recovered intel. Now, there is no requirement that we're near any of the inactive objectives to actually interact with it. So we always have the option just to do that and have one of the prisoners go and roll 3 of these dice and punch someone in the face. We will often want to spend our action step on something else that is not that interactability, but it's a nice option to have. So we're going to go into my first turn. Yes, we are. So fighter turn, we're going to do the threat phase, refreshing all the cards in my fighter play area. There are no cards that need refreshing there. So we're going to just do the final thing we need to do in this phase and draw the top card of the enemy deck. It says hold them back. Each Boris in play immediately attacks, gaining +1 grapple results. If there is no Boris in play, Dmitrii gains 3 random defense tokens. So we're going to roll these 3 white dice and give Dmitrii some defense. He gets a grapple, a kick, and a punch. 1 of each. That's the way to do it. Keep it nice and even up there. So I'm going to put the kicks, the grapple, and the punch underneath Dmitrii's card to represent defense. You'll see that that's my habit of putting defense tokens. I always put them in that order, and I'll put them underneath the card. This makes it easier for me to kind of keep track how everything's going. This is an event, so since we carried this out, I'm just going to go ahead and discard this next to the Brotherhood deck. This game doesn't take up that much space as far as the board, but by the time you're laying out all these cards, you can see why playing multi-handed might not be the easiest thing to do, especially if I'm trying to record this sucker. But it is something I do need to explore. I wonder if it would give me some more of what I really want out of this game. We got a little lucky that I didn't pull a minion there. Remember, 13 of these cards are minions. So we pulled a non-minion card, but most of this deck will be minions. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 cards in a stack, including that event I just pulled. And I pulled one of the 7 non-minions. We're going to go to the rest of Brandon's turn. So I am in the act phase. I will go ahead and play Chameleon Stance. So that is my card step. I'm going to do my move step. I'm going to move 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now I have an action step, so I'm not adjacent to anybody, so I can't do this action. I have an exhaust ability on Chameleon Stance that I could do that would not count as an action, but it does require that I have a card on my discard pile, which obviously I do not. I'm going to go ahead and do this defend action and just gain some defense tokens, considering I don't have any yet. So I'm going to roll 2 dice, just like Dmitrii did, and I'm going to get 2 kick defense. Not great, would have liked a little bit more diversity, but remember, I want block tokens. Why? Well, block tokens turn into power. Power turns into me being on my supercharged side, and gotta like that. At the end of my turn, we do the react phase. From left to right, I'm going to activate each card in my threat area. There are none. Draw phase, I'm going to draw 1 card. I got a Viper Jab. I can move up to 1 space, then attack with 2 red dice. And then finally, I'm going to flip this over. I should tell you what Chameleon Stance does. So I just mentioned the exhaust ability. There's a combo ability on there. It says heal 1 damage. Since I put that on the board, I'm unlikely going to be able to get any benefit out of that combo effect. But the most important thing about Chameleon Stance is while this card is ready, each of my attacks gains +1 red dice to it. And that could be huge. So really, really like having that card in play. we're now going to go to the enemy's turn. So on the enemy's turn, I don't pull a card. Remember, you pull a card from the enemy deck during the threat phase of your own fighter turns. But I will activate every card in the enemy play area. So Dmitrii's card says activate, Dmitrii attacks. He can't attack me because he's very, very, very far away. So since he's unable to, he's going to resolve his equip effects. Then he's going to retreat one space. One of the awkward things about the rules in this game, and I think this really comes to bear with Dmitrii, I don't understand their wording choice and how they went with this. An enemy only retreats if it is engaged. If it's not engaged, it's not going to retreat. If he was engaged, he would attack and then retreat one space. But since he's not engaged, he's not going to retreat. He's just going to resolve his equip effect, and that's it. Enemies only advance if they're not engaged as well. If an enemy is engaged with a fighter, they're not going to lead that fighter to go and engage with somebody else. And again, that's all generally speaking. There's exception to a lot of these rules, et cetera, et cetera. But the takeaway of all this is, even though it says that Dmitrii retreats one space, he doesn't move. When you get really specific into retreat always means directly away. It's not like, oh, they move one away. If you're retreating in this game, you are moving directly away. And there is only one option to retreat at all times. So when you understand that, it makes sense that the retreat would just be ignored if they weren't engaged. I just wish the wording was a little bit clearer. So since we did not attack or resolving the equip effect, equip, discard the top card of the enemy deck, and then put the topmost gear card in the enemy deck discard pile into play. If no gear cards enter this way, Dmitrii gains a random defense token. This is not a gear card, so it's just going to get discarded. So we will not see red Drago, but we will have to give one more random defense token to our friend Dmitrii. Dmitrii gets another punch defense. Good for you, Dmitrii. So that is the end of the enemy's turn. We're going to go to the stage turn. Activation phase. The group activates each card in the stage play area from left to right by resolving its ability. Obviously, the way I'm setting this up, it's going to be left to right, top to bottom. Activate. Place a power on the recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. There are none. Escape prisoners. Each enemy carrying an objective gains one random defense token. That doesn't apply. Recovered intel. Activate. For each inactive objective, choose one different enemy nearest that objective that is not carrying an objective. Move each chosen enemy 3 spaces toward the nearest objective. Then each enemy picks up an objective in an adjacent space. So basically, I'm going to look at where Dmitrii is on the board. Which of these inactive objectives is he closest to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this one over here, he is obviously closer to blue. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3. When you move enemies are going to take the fewest turns possible. So Dmitrii wanted to get as close as possible to that blue objective. He couldn't quite get adjacent, so we just moved him where he was there, but he wouldn't move 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, or then 1, 2, 3. There was just going to be one turn. Most of the time, enemies will move in a direct line. Having done all the activate abilities on these various cards over here, we now go to the draw phase of the stage turn. We're going to draw and resolve one stage card. It says, find them. For each copy of Sneaking in Play, the fighters choose and activate a different enemy. There are no copies of Sneaking in Play, so that just gets discarded without any effect. And then end phase, each fighter flips their turn card to its fighter turn side. Fighter turn, thread phase. I would refresh all of the cards in my fighter play area. That doesn't need to be done because there was nothing exhausted. So now I'm going to draw the top card of the Brotherhood enemy deck. It is Trusty Kevlar. So again, did not get an enemy. It's good and bad. I wouldn't mind a minion to kill so I can get some loot, but it is what it is. It will give me some more time to get set up. Unfortunately, all I have in my hand are attacks and abilities. I do not have another tactic like Chameleon Stance. I really like to get a little bit more set up. So even though I did a pretty deep mulligan to start this, I only ended up with one tactic card to work with so far. So this is a gear card. Activate. If Dmitrii has less than 5 defense tokens, he gains 3 random defense tokens, and we'll put that in play right there. It is now my act phase. I'm going to move 3, 1, 2, 3, and get this loot. Get the top card on the loot deck. What is it? It is cash. At any time, you may discard to exhaust the minion within 4 spaces of you. That will be nice to have. I will put this over here I'm not going to have a card step this turn because there's no card that I want to play, but I will do my action step. My action step, I'm just going to sprint and let me move 3 more. So 1, 2, and 3. Unlike the enemies, obviously I can move in whatever friggin' direction I want. The enemies have to move in a very specific style. I like my turns. And now we go to the react phase, left to right. We're activating each card in my threat area. There are none. And now we're going to draw a card and flip this card. So we have another tactic card. That's nice. I look forward to getting that in play. It is bite back. I can exhaust after taking any amount of damage to reduce that damage by 1 and resolve the combo effect of any card in my discard pile. Then you may discard this card to attack with 2 red dice, dealing general damage. I'll talk about general damage as we go. Now, I should say that all of these fighters come with 8 advanced cards that are basically just slightly better versions of your base cards. And I mean just slightly better. They're nothing that's going to break the game. They do make it a bit easier. We only get them with the hero story deck. And again, I don't know if I exactly want to make this game that much easier, but they are a nice wrinkle when you go through the hero story deck. But we will not be seeing them here today. We're going to now do the enemy turn. We're activating Dmitrii. It says Dmitrii attacks. If possible, it's not. So we're going to resolve his equip effect. He's not going to retreat because he's not engaged. We're going to do the equip effect. We're discarding the top card of the attack deck. It's another minion. So clearly we're just not going to get the minions. They just keep ending up on the discard pile. And then since the gear card is under play, we're going to give Dmitrii a random defense token. It is a kick token. We're going to go to Trusty Kevlar. If Dmitrii has less than 5 defense tokens, he does not. He just got his 5th. We're now going to do the stage turn. Activate, replacing a power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. There are none. We're going to activate the Escape Prisoners card. Each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. Again, there are no enemies carrying objectives until just now. For each objective, choose 1 enemy nearest to that objective that is not carrying an objective. Move that enemy 3 spaces toward the nearest objective, and then each enemy picks up an objective in an adjacent space. So we're going to move Dmitrii adjacent to there. He's going to now pick up this objective, and we're just going to put it face up on him and activate it on its white side. We're going to now pull a card from the stage deck. It is Interrogation Efforts. Place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. Any fighter may discard a card they control from their play area to cancel this effect. Heck no, that is not me. So I'm putting 1 power. So it doesn't matter which kind of defense token I use. It could be kick, it could be grapple, it could be punch. I'm just going to put 1 here on recovered intel. And remember, if we ever get up to 10 on there, game over. Another way for us to lose. With that done, I'm going to flip this back over. I'm going to refresh all cards in my play area. There are none to refresh. And we're going to grab an enemy card. It is Boris. We get our first minion. Hello, Boris. So I'm going to find Green Boris. Green Boris comes in. He has 6 health. When he attacks, he's going to attack with 2 white dice. He's also going to have some starting defense. He has 2 punch defense tokens that come into play based on the symbols that are on his card. He has some special abilities. A fighter adjacent to this enemy cannot move unless they discard 1 grapple defense token and place it on this card. There's an activate ability, advance 3 spaces toward the nearest fighter and attack. This enemy gains +1 attack value if they did not move before this attack. I'm not that worried about Boris yet. I do want to get a little bit more set up. So I'm going to move into my act phase. Let me get bite back on the board. I already read what that does. I'm going to do a move action. I'm going to do 1, get this loot card. This loot card is Butterfly Knife. Discard this card to get +2 red dice to an attack targeting a figure adjacent to you. I have 2 more movement. 1, 2. Now I still have the action step. I don't want to sprint at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and do the interactability on the stage rules that will count as my action step, so I can move a objective 3 spaces and attack. I discard 1 power from recovered intel. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. We're attacking with that escape prisoner. It's rolling 3 dice as per what's on its card. We'll see if I can actually get some damage through. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. We do 3 punch damage. So both of these tokens are thrown away. Dmitrii is not able to block this 3rd punch die, so we get 1 damage on Dmitrii. And remember, when an enemy carrying this objective suffers 1 or more damage, that enemy drops this objective. And now when you drop an objective, you can drop it in any space that you want. So we'll just drop this objective here. He's going to pick it up again. So It's not really a thing, but we also get to remove 1 token from recovered intel because of the interactability. So the attack could actually not have done any damage, and we still would have discarded 1 power from recovered intel. Again, we're just trying to make sure that does not get up to 10. And the only reason it was up to 1 was because the interrogation efforts event card from the stage deck. So that is my turn. We're now going to carry out all the actions in our threat area. Boris, activate, advance 3 spaces toward the nearest fighter and attack. So it's going to move 1, 2, 3. It can't get to me, and that is its full activation. We're now going to draw a card. It is another bite back, not that helpful, and we're flipping this over. We're going to carry out the things in the enemy play area. So Dmitrii is going to attack if able to. He can't. We're going to resolve his equip effect. Nope, he gets another enemy. No gear cards under play. He gets a random defense token. It is a grapple. And then Trusty Kevlar will come into play because now he only has 4 defense tokens. He's going to get 3 more random defense tokens. He gets a kick, a punch, and a grapple. So 1 of each again. Stage rules. We're going to place a power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. There are none. Each enemy carrying an objective gives 1 random defense token. That's not going to happen. Recovered intel. For each inactive objective, choose 1 different enemy nearest an objective that is not carrying an objective. Move each chosen enemy 3 spaces toward the nearest objective. So Dmitrii is going to chill over here by the red. And now where is Boris going to go? Well, Boris is going to try to get to an objective. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he'll go toward the blue. This game's a little bit loosey-goosey with some rules. And it does tell you that for the best experience, you want to basically do the thing that's worst for the players, and that's fine. It's not my preferred element of a game. I do like a little bit more rigid rule sets. It is another thing to consider about this game. The rule set's a little bit kind of up in the air. So Boris going to move 3. It goes 1, 2, 3. Remember, I'm going to have to give it a grapple defense token if I want to move away. More likely just to try to punch Boris in the face and make sure he goes bye-bye. When Dmitrii dropped the blue objective token, it should have went to its inactive side. He's going to go ahead and pick up the red token, and now that's going to be active on him instead of the blue one. So the red one was like, I'm going to go punch you. And Dmitrii's like, all right, I'll drop the blue one and I'll pick up the red one. And what are you going to do? Life of a prisoner. It's tough going. So we're now going to draw the stage card. This card deals each fighter 1 general damage. General damage. What does that mean? Well, so far, we've really been talking about specific damage. Damage either being grapple, being kick, or being punch. General damage is damage that can be blocked by any defense token. So since I was done 1 general damage, Brandon's like, oh, I'm going to pick my leg up and kick that damage away. And since it was a block, it now goes on top of Brandon as power. Damage can also be direct damage. Direct damage cannot be blocked at all. So again, you have damage that can be blocked depending on the defense token you have. You have general damage that can be blocked by any defense tokens. And then you have direct damage, which can't be blocked at all. That's the end of the stage turn. We now go to the fighter turn. We're going to refresh all the cards in my play area. None need to be refreshed. We're going to pull the top card from the enemy deck. It's Anastasia, also green. So we're going to get Anastasia and her big bad gun. She's going to go to the closest spawn point. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put her over here. She comes in with 1 kick defense and 1 grapple defense. She has 4 health. She rolls 1 white die. Activate for her is if she's unengaged. She deals the nearest fighter within 6 spaces of this enemy 1 direct damage. If unable to, she moves 3 spaces to be within 6 spaces of the nearest fighter. If engaged, she attacks, then retreats 3 spaces. Welcome to the game. I would very much like to defeat Boris, although that is going to be a little bit hard. So let's see if I can pull this off. I'm going to play Dragon's Teeth. So I can move up to 2 spaces and attack with 3 red dice. Now remember, I can't move unless I discard a grapple defense token and place it on this card. So that's unfortunate. This is my card step of my turn. Remember, card step, action step, move step, you do not have to do them in any particular order. I'm going to roll 3 red dice, but Chameleon Stance is in my fighter play area and it is ready. So I get an additional die. So I'm rolling 4 red dice against Boris. This is a kick attack too, which is good because Boris only has punch defense. Yoink. These are the 4 dice I rolled. I use this die to show how many guard results I rolled, and then we kind of figure out the damage. It's not as important when there's only 4 dice, but when you're rolling more than 4 dice, there's only 4 dice in the game. They probably should have given you 7 or 8. That's another little nitpick I have about what's going on here, but I digress. I managed to do 3 damage to Boris. 1, 2, and 3, and I got 2 kick defense because I have the 2 guards, and this was a kick attack. 1 and 2. That was my card play. I'm going to move this into my discard pile. For the action step, I'm going to do the action step on Brandon's card, back fist. I'm going to roll 1 die. It's actually 2 because each of my attacks gets +1 red die because Chameleon Stance is active. Now, note, I'm holding on to Butterfly Knife. I do not want to waste that on Boris over here. You know, it is what it is. Rolled that. It is 2 damage. Unfortunately, Boris has 2 defense there, so that just goes away. Finally, I'm going to do Chameleon Stance. I'm going to exhaust this to choose a card from my discard pile and add it to my hand. I'm going to get Dragon's Teeth back and now discard a card to carry out its combo effect. I'm going to discard Bite Back. I get 1 defense token of my choice. Now, it does not have to be from the minion that I'm engaged with, so I'm going to take myself a Punch defense, and then I'm going to be able to deal 1 general damage to each enemy engaged with me. That's going to be 1 more damage to Boris. So he's up to 4. He only has 6 health. My bad. Let me not have exhausted Chameleon Stance yet, because part of Backfist is after I did the attack with 2 dice, I can reveal a card from my hand to resolve its combo effect. At that point, I could have discarded Bite Back to get a defense token. So I would have taken a Fist, and I could have done 1 general damage to Boris. That gets him up to 4. And now I'm going to exhaust Chameleon Stance. It's going to allow me to take a card from my discard pile, and then I can discard another card to resolve its combo effect. I'll discard Viper Jab to deal 1 direct damage to Boris. So he's actually up to 5 damage. And again, he only has 6 health. You know what? I still have the move step on my turn. So instead of getting a punch token, when I discarded Bite Back, I would have taken a defense token of my choice. I would have taken the grapple token. Now note, I did not have to take that grapple token from Boris. Bite Back specifically says I can take a defense token of my choice. It will tell you when you have to take it from that enemy. So I'm now going to discard this grapple token and place it on Boris. And now I can do my move action. So I'm going to move 1, 2. I get this loot, discard that to get this Stink Bomb. And anytime you may discard this card to move an enemy up to 3 spaces. And I have 1 more movement. I'll go ahead and move over here. We now go to the react phase from left to right. Boris is going to move 3, 1, 2. He's going to now attack. Since he did move, he doesn't get +1 attack value. If he had +1 attack value, all it is would be another dice. So he's only rolling 2 dice against me. He does 1 kick damage and 1 grapple damage. I can use my kick defense to get another power for me, and then I could exhaust Bite Back. After taking any amount of damage, reduce that damage by 1 and resolve the combo effect of any card in my discard pile. I'll resolve the effect of Bite Back, gain 1 defense token of my choice. I'm going to gain the grapple defense token from Boris and deal 1 general damage to each enemy engaged with you. That's going to be the 6 damage to Boris. So Boris is out. Boris is discarded. Since I defeated the minion, I get a loot, a little bit of a loot pile. Sneakers, discard this card during your kick attack to add 2 red dice to this attack. One of the quirky things about the loot is that some of them have these like plus symbols on the bottom. They don't mean anything. I do not know why they're there. I'm assuming it's a relic of an effect that didn't make it into the final rules, I guess. I don't know. But I digress. And now Boris comes off the board. Sorry, Boris, you've had better days. Anastasia is now going to activate. If unengaged, she deals the nearest fighter within 6 spaces 1 direct damage. If unable to, she moves 3 spaces to be within 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She just needs to get to that line. She's going to move 1, 2. She doesn't move the full 3 because she's just trying to get within 6. And again, she has to move in 1 straight line without making turns if she can. I'm going to draw a card. Note, I do not refresh my cards. That happens at the beginning of my turn. I drew another Nunchaku grab, and I'm going to now flip this card over. We activate the cards in the enemy play area. Activate attack if he can. If unable to, he resolves his equip effect. So we're going to discard the top card. It is not a gear card. Since no gear cards entered, he gets a random defense token. He gets a kick token. Dmitri will definitely get a pile of defense tokens, and that's fine. We will overcome. Trusty Kevlar, activate. If Dmitri had less than 5 defense tokens, he gets 3 more. He does not have less than 5, so that's fine. We now go to the stage turn. We'll look at the activation there. Place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. Dmitrii has 1, so we get a power token there. Escape prisoners. Each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. Dmitrii's carrying an objective, so he's going to get another kick defense. That's done. Recovered intel for each inactive objective. Choose 1 different enemy nearest to that objective that is not carrying an objective. Dmitrii's carrying an objective. Anastasia is going to go toward the closest objective. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's going to move toward the blue, exactly where Boris was last turn. We draw a card. It is a tripwire. Each fighter must either discard 1 card they control or activate the enemy nearest them. I'll activate Anastasia. That's fine. She's just going to deal the nearest fighter within 6 spaces of her 1 direct damage. I will happily just take that 1. That is out. We go to the fighter turn. I'm going to refresh each card in my fighter play area, and now I draw the top card of the enemy deck. It is the yellow Boris. Yellow Boris, didn't you learn your lesson by seeing what happened to your green friend? Yellow Boris goes there. So the bad thing about this is now all of a sudden a lot of these objective tokens are very much within range of being picked up. And once we get to 10, remember, game over. I think I just try to do away with Anastasia and then put myself in a place to start going at Dmitrii. I think will make some sense, especially if I can get to my powered up phase of life. I'm going to do the card step. I play a card from my hand. I move 2 spaces and I attack. I'm attacking with 3 dice plus 1 because of Chameleon Stance. That is a total of 2 guards. So that's going to be 2 defense tokens. That's a damage. And then this is a critical. So I'm going to roll this. That's another critical. So we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4 damage already. And I'm going to roll this again. If I get a 5th damage, that will be enough to defeat Anastasia. This is a kick attack, but she only has 1 kick defense. That is a 5th damage. So I'm going to get my 2 kick defense tokens. That 5 damage is reduced down to 4. It's still enough to defeat Anastasia. I'm sorry. Didn't mean it. You're out. I get a loot. It is a turkey platter. During my turn, I may give this card to another fighter adjacent to me or discard this card to heal 3 damage. Dragon's Teeth goes into my discard pile. Anastasia comes off the board. Now notice I did move 2, but that was part of the card step. That's what the card told me to do. So I still have my move action. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then 3. That gets me another loot. So I have 7 loot, energy drink. At any time you may discard this card to gain 2 power. That could be helpful. So much loot. I'm going to activate blue. I really don't have much else to do, so why not? So blue is rolling 3 attack dice against Dmitrii. It does 2 punch damage and a grapple damage. Well, 2 of those are blocked. Again, Dmitrii doesn't gain power the way the fighters do. 1 damage does get through, so Dmitrii is down to 1. And since Dmitrii took damage, he's going to drop the red objective. That's going to go down there. It goes to inactive. And as per the terms of that interactability, we discard 1 power from recovered intel. I'm going to exhaust Chameleon Stance to put Viper Jab into my hand. Then I can discard half-inch punch to gain a defense token from an enemy within 3 spaces. I will gain a grapple defense token from Dmitrii. We are going to do the react phase of my turn. Boris is going to go 3 spaces toward the nearest fighter, so he's going to move all the way down there. Then that's the end of his activation. And now I draw a card and flip this over. My other Chameleon Strike, which is great, will allow me to heal some damage when I do some comboing. Dmitrii is going to attack if able. He can't, so he's going to instead do his equip action. Is this a gear? It is not. It's another minion. He gets 1 random defense token. It is a kick. Really rolling a lot of kicks. The dice are weighted, kids. Trusty Kevlar doesn't trigger because Dmitrii already has 5 or more tokens. We're going to go to the stage rules. We're going to place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. There are none. Escape prisoners. Each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. There are none. And then recovered intel. Choose the closest enemy and go pick that sucker up. Again, I'm going to go in the way that's kind of the worst for the fighters. So we're going to move Boris down here, and he's going to pick up the blue, and Dmitrii is going to get the red. So they are now both active, and that could be a problem. We are going to draw a card from the stage deck. It is Interrogation Efforts. Place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. Any fighter may discard a card they control from their play area to cancel this effect. I don't think it's worth canceling. We'll just put the 2 power on there. We're now going to flip this over. I draw a card from the enemy deck. It is yellow Anastasia. So we have not seen any Dragos yet, but we have seen a couple Anastasias. She's going to spawn right there. She comes in with a grapple defense and a kick defense. Oh no. I'm going to play Viper Jab as my card step. I can give Boris this grapple defense so I can move 1 space and then attack with 2 red dice. The 2 red dice is actually 3 red dice. Oh, by the way, Chameleon Stance would have refreshed at the beginning of my turn before I drew Anastasia. Now I'm going to roll these 3 red dice. It's a punch attack. I will discard Butterfly Knife to roll 2 more dice. So I'm rolling a total of 5 dice. Again, I only have 4 in my hand, so we'll have to do this in stages. So I have 2 defense, 2 damage. And this is a punch attack. And now I roll 1 more die. It's another damage. So 3 damage. Dmitri has no punch defense, so he's up to 5 damage. Since he took damage, he does drop that objective token. He'll just drop it right there. And I get 2 punch defense because of the 2 guards that I rolled. After I do that, I reveal the top card of my deck. It's Dragon's Teeth. I can resolve the card's combo effect and then discard it or draw it into my hand. I will resolve the combo effect. So I'm going to gain a power, and then I can discard this card to reveal a card from my hand and resolve its combo effect. I'm going to reveal Nunchaku Grab to exhaust Boris and gain a defense token of my choice from Boris. I'm going to gain the grapple token right back. The interesting thing about that Dragon's Teeth is that it discarded itself when doing the combo, but then it would have been discarded anyway with Viper Jab. The other alternative I had was to put Dragon's Teeth into my hand, but again, I'm not planning to do any kick attacks on Dmitri anyway. So I have 3 power here because I just got a 3rd. I'm going to discard this energy drink to get 2 more power. So I'm up to 5 power. As soon as I get the 5 power, I flip to the other side. I'm now going to do this action. So it's the Dragon's Reach. So I went from back fist to Dragon's Reach. Now, since I'm doing this power right away, it will flip back over when I'm done. So I'm just going to tilt it to its side like this. I get to attack with 3 dice. It is a punch attack. It's going to be 4 dice because the Chameleon Stance is still active. Then I'm going to reveal each card in my hand and resolve the combo effect of each card revealed. Then I flip this card back over. So I'm rolling with these 4 attack dice. It's 1 guard and 4 damage. I'm going to get another punch defense because of that guard. And the 4 damage gets Dmitri up to 9. Now I'm going to reveal each card in my hand. I can exhaust the minion engaged with me and gain 1 defense token of my choice from that minion. Boris is already exhausted, but I'm going to take a punch defense from him. I can have another Nunchaku grab, so I'm going to get another punch defense from him. And then the combo effect of the Chameleon Stance allows me to heal 1 damage, so I'm back to full health. This flips. I've done the action step and I've done the card step. Move step, I'd have to discard a thing to move. I really don't want to move. I'm just going to kind of chill where we are, and I'll just deal with Boris next turn, and we'll see how this plays out from here. But I will exhaust Chameleon Stance to grab a card from my discard pile, put it in my hand. I'm going to grab Half-Inch Punch. Maybe not Half-Inch Punch. Doesn't make the most sense. I'll grab Viper Jab and discard Viper Jab to deal 1 direct damage to an enemy engaged with me. So I'm going to deal 1 more damage to Dmitri to get him up to 10. So we're going to activate the cards in my threat area. Boris, since he is exhausted, he's just going to ready. He does not do anything else during his activation. Anastasia, she's unengaged. She's going to deal 1 direct damage to the fighter that is closest to her. That is obviously me. So I'm going to take the 1 damage there. And now we're going to draw a card. We get another Viper Stance, and I'm going to flip that over. And in return, Dmitri's going to attack. He can attack, so he's not unable to, so he's not going to resolve the equip effect. He's just going to attack, and then he's going to retreat 1 space because he is engaged with me. He's attacking with 4 white dice. He does 1 kick damage, 1 punch damage, another kick damage, and a grapple damage. I have so many defense tokens that I've actually blocked all of that. So I have 4 power, 1 more, and I'll be back to supercharged mode. Dmitrii is going to retreat 1 space. He retreats there. So bite back can't even exhaust because I didn't take any damage. It was all blocked. So I couldn't even discard this to do the attack if I wanted to, but I wouldn't want to because it only does general damage. And Dmitrii has so many kick defense, general damage doesn't make any sense. Trusty Kevlar doesn't go into place because Dmitrii has 5 defense tokens, so he's fine. We now go to the stage rules. We're going to place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. Boris still has the blue objective, so we put 1 more power there. That gets us up to 3. Each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. What's Boris going to get? He gets a kick defense token, and then we look for objectives that aren't claimed yet. Dmitrii's going to come over here, 1, 2, and he's going to get that one. Boris already has some objectives. He's not going to move. Dmitrii now gets the yellow objective, and Anastasia gets the red objective. We're going to draw a stage card. It is interrogation efforts. Place 1 power on recovered intel for each objective carried by an enemy. Do not want to add 3 more power there. That would be dangerous. I'm just going to discard bite back to prevent 3 more power from being added to recovered intel, because again, that's too many power for my taste. I'm now going to flip this over. We refresh Chameleon Stance, and I'm drawing the top card from the enemy deck. It is blue Anastasia. So this spawn point is full. Minions will never voluntarily move onto a spawn point unless it's the only place to go. Remember, Anastasia didn't have to move though, so she's still there. So instead of placing the blue Anastasia there, we're going to find the next closest spawn point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be one of those 2. We'll go ahead and put blue Anastasia over here. She gets her starting defense of 1 kick defense and 1 grapple defense. On my card step, I'm going to play Viper Stance. Exhaust before dice are rolled. You or an adjacent fighter may gain +1 red die during an attack. There's a combo. Choose a fighter to draw a card or move 2 spaces. That was my card step. I'm going to use Chameleon Stance now to get a card on my discard pile. I'm going to get one of these Dragon's Teeth, and I can discard another card to get its effect immediately. I will discard the other Chameleon Stance to heal 1. Now I'm going to attack with Brandon using his back fist. So he's attacking with 1 die. I'm going to exhaust Viper Stance to attack with 2 dice. We're attacking Boris with a punch attack. That's 1 damage and a critical hit. 1 damage, a critical is 2, and then that last damage is 3 damage to Boris. And then I can reveal a card from my hand to resolve its combo effect. I'm going to gain a power using Dragon's Teeth. That power is going to let me flip to my upgraded side. So again, I just revealed this, and then I can discard this card to reveal a card from my hand and resolve its combo effect. I'm going to reveal Nunchaku Grab. I'm going to exhaust Boris and gain a defense token of my choice from him. I'm going to get the kick defense, and I still have my move step. I'm going to discard this grapple, give it to Boris so I can move 3 and just go right there. That's the end of my turn. I'm going to do the react phase. Boris doesn't activate. He just readies. Oh, he took damage, by the way. So he's going to drop this. Trying to think what's worse for me. None of it really matters. He'll just drop it there. Anastasia, she is engaged, so she's not going to do the deal 1 direct damage. She's actually just going to attack. What's her attack? Her attack is just 1 die. It's a grapple. Of course, that is the only one that I do not have any defense tokens of, so I do take a damage from that. After she attacks, she's going to retreat 3 spaces. She can retreat 1, but then she's stuck against the wall, so she cannot retreat anymore. This Anastasia is unengaged. She's going to try to see if she's within 6 spaces, but again, we cannot calculate range through the wall, so she's going to move 3 toward me. So 1, 1, 2. She 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She is within range of me there. So it's not like a line of sight thing. So she has like special curvy bullets. She's going to shoot me around the wall next time. I'm going to draw a card, flip this. I got another Dragon's Teeth. We now do the enemy turn. Dmitrii cannot attack me. So we're going to flip this. Is it gear? It is. Dmitrii attacks each fighter engaged with him. If no fighter was attacked this way, shuffle this card into the enemy deck and deal the fighter nearest Dmitrii 1 direct damage. So that goes into play right there. Since a gear card went into play, he does not get a random defense token. Kevlar does not trigger because Dmitrii has more than 5 defense tokens. However, N40 Punisher does. Since he's not engaged, he doesn't attack. He's just going to give me 1 direct damage. So I'm up to 2 damage. And we shuffle this back into the enemy deck. Yeah, I really don't want to draw another Boris next turn. That'd be not great. We go to the stage rules. We're placing 2 more power tokens on here, so we're up to 5. So definitely need to start making a move. We now do the escape prisoners. Each enemy carrying an objective gains 1 random defense token. So we're going to get a random defense token for Dmitrii. It is a grapple, getting a random defense token for Anastasia. She gets a kick. And then this blue Anastasia is going to go 3 north to try to get to that green one. Boris is going to grab the blue one. We grab the top card from the stage deck, Sneaking. Any fighter may discard 1 defense token to put this card in their play area. While this card is in your play area, enemy does not engage with you. Treat you as a block space instead of a fighter. If you suffer 1 or more damage, discard this card. Attack with a red, dealing general damage. Defeat a minion, or we can feint. Defeat a minion adjacent to you and discard 1 power from recovered intel. Yes, I will do that. I'll discard this punch defense and get Sneaking. That's really strong. So feint abilities are interesting. Feint abilities can be resolved at any time during your turn, but if you do that, you have to discard the card after doing the feint ability. But especially with a spawn point right next to me, I think that makes a ton of sense for me to do that. We are going to refresh these cards, flip this over, and draw the top enemy card. It is a Boris, so yeah, he would have made me get stuck because I don't have any grapple tokens. So happy to have Sneaking. Blue Boris is going to come here. How many Borises are there? Like quintuplets, man. That poor Brotherhood mother to pop out all 5 of those children at once. Mother's Day is a special day. We are now going to go to my turn. I'm going to discard Sneaking to defeat a minion adjacent to me. So Boris is out. I'm going to get another loot as a result of that. It is a Molotov cocktail. Discard this card to choose a space within 3 spaces of you. Each figure in or adjacent to the chosen space is dealt 3 general damage. Interesting. I have some ideas where that could be useful. Since I use Sneaking, this gets discarded, but I get to remove 1 power from recovered intel. Boris is out. Sorry for our short time together, sir. I'm going to discard Cash, exhaust Anastasia. I'm going to discard Stink Bomb to move Boris 3 spaces. That way, just because I can. So in the move step of my turn, I'm going to move 1, 2. In the action step, I'm going to do my Dragon's Reach attack. Remember, I am supercharged. I have not done an attack since I got my 5th power. So I'm attacking with 3. Chameleon Stance gives me 4. I'm going to exhaust Viper Stance to give me 5 dice. I rolled 1 critical, 2 damage, and a guard. So it's going to be 1 defense. I still have 1 more die to roll. So that's 3 damage so far. Dmitrii has no fist defense. So that's 3 damage so far. The critical gets re-rolled. It's another defense that's coming my way. And remember, I still have a 5th die. So the first 4 are out. We get a critical. We're re-rolling the critical. And it's a damage and another guard. So it's a total of 5 damage, 3 guards. I'm going to take the 3 punch defense. We're doing 5 damage to Dmitrii. So Dmitrii's up to 15 damage. Now I can reveal cards to my hand to resolve combo effects. So I can exhaust the minion engaged with me and gain 1 defense taken of your choice from that minion. Well, it's not a minion, doesn't help. But I gain 1 power using Dragon's Teeth. Obviously not a lot of great combos there. But this will now flip. So I did my move step, I did my action step, and I'm going to do 1 more thing. Dmitrii took damage too, so this is going to come down. I still have the card step here. I'm going to play Dragon's Teeth because why the heck not? I'm going to discard the Molotov cocktail. That's going to allow me to choose a space within 3 spaces of me. I'm going to choose this space. I'm going to deal each figure in or adjacent to the chosen space 3 general damage. When I do general damage to the enemy, I'm going to use the defense tokens, and I can choose which get removed. I'm just going to remove 3 of the kick defense tokens. That is like you can remove. It's not like a gray area where it's like you're supposed to do what's worse for you. I mean, I had a grapple card in my hand. I could have just done that, gotten rid of the grapple, and then attacked them with the grapple. But I think the Dragon's Teeth is a little bit more fun. Besides, I have the sneakers, and Chameleon Stance is still ready. So I'm attacking with 1, 2, 3. I'm discarding the sneakers, 4, 5. Chameleon Stance gives me 6 attack dice. 4. There's 2 guards there. I'm going to roll 2 dice again. There's 2 damage already done. I got a 3rd damage and another guard. So I get 3 kick defense, and we do 3 damage to Dmitrii. Dmitrii, though, has 3 kick defense left, so no damage gets through. He's got 5 health left. That was my card phase. That's done. I'm going to exhaust Chameleon Stance. I'll grab a Viper Jab, and then I'll discard the Viper Jab to do a direct damage to Dmitrii. Again, it's not general damage, so it cannot be blocked. Here's one more damage, so 4 damage away. We are going to do the react phase. Boris is going to activate and move 3 spaces toward me. Anastasia just readies. The other Anastasia moves 3 spaces toward me. 1, 2, 3. I draw a card, flip this over. We get flip kick, deal 2 kick damage to each enemy engaged with you, then move up to 2 spaces and resolve the combo effect of any card in your discard pile. It could be very strong. Enemy turn. Dmitrii is going to attack. Dmitrii attacks with 4 dice. 3 punch damage and a kick damage. I block all 4 of that. That's 5 power. That gets me back to my supercharged side. And then Dmitrii is going to retreat 1. Trusty Kevlar is going to kick in because Dmitrii has less than 5 defense tokens. So we're getting 3 random defense tokens. It's a grapple and 2 punch. All of a sudden, kick is wide open. Where is some grappling? Enemy turn is over. Stage turn. We're going to put 2 more power on here because only Boris and Anastasia have activated objectives. They're both going to get a random token. So Boris gets a punch. Anastasia is going to get a kick. Anyone that doesn't have a thing is going to move 3. So Dmitrii is going to move 1. Anastasia up here is going to move 1, 2, 3. And then Dmitrii gets the yellow. So that's now active. We draw this. Armed guards. This card deals each fighter 1 general damage. General damage I can block with that. My turn. I'm going to ready that. Draw an enemy card. It is the modified RPG 7. If this card has no power on it, plays a power on it. Otherwise, Dmitrii chooses the nearest fighter and discards 1 power from this card to attack each figure within 4 spaces of that fighter. Each fighter that suffered damage displayed discards 1 card they control, and this absolutely can be used to have Dmitrii put damage on himself, which is really weird. So, my turn. Let's finish this sucker off. I'm going to use my move to go here. I'm going to play flip kick. I deal 2 kick damage to each enemy engaged with me, and then move up to 2 spaces, resolving the combo effect of any card in my discard pile. So 2 kick damage. Dmitrii has no kick defense anymore, so that's 2 damage. He's up to 18 damage with 2 hit points left. And then I can resolve the combo effect of any of the cards in my discard pile. I will deal 1 direct damage to an enemy engaged with me. So we're 1 away from finishing this dude off, and I might as well finish it off in style. I'm going to do the action of Brandon. He's going to roll 5 dice. I just need to get 1 damage through. So here are the 4 dice. Bam, 2 criticals. 2 damage. Bam, 6 damage, and I roll 1 more. Oh, that is 7 damage. Puts Dmitrii at 26. He is very defeated. He drops this prisoner, and that is the end of the game, kids. Then I could have resolved all the combos, although those combos don't really help me much at all. I mean, I can discard the turkey platter and, get back to full health. I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, real Gearlocks clear baddie queues, because it would be interesting if I was forced to kill the rest of those suckers when you had that recovered intel kind of piling on. It'd be interesting. I think it might work better in this scenario and maybe not in the others. Again, lots to really like about this game, and just some things that I'm like, oh man, I just feel like this game is super close to being super awesome, and it just kind of falls in it. Good, very good, great. Sometimes I do think it's cool the way the tokens make you think about attacking and what kind of defense you want, and then trying to deal with these different enemies. It's a nice touch. Like, oh, you need this grapple to do that. Honestly, if I didn't pick up that sneaking card right at that right time, I would have had a really hard time, because I would have had to kill the Boris who spawned there, or I could have probably done something with a combo effect to just get a grapple token of my choice, and then I could have moved that way. I did see something about Brandon being really hard to play for beginners. I played enough with the other characters. I think by the time I just got to Brandon, I found Brandon like really strong. So he might just have a lot more attack abilities than the others do. So now that I actually have a better handle on this game, I'm curious to play with some of the other fighters and see if they're not a little bit more my style. Brandon might just be a little bit too strong for my taste. It just nothing ever feels like a serious challenge to me with him. There's not a lot of ways you can scale the difficulty. And again, it could just be like a true solo thing. There are 5 fighters in the base game. They all seem pretty different, just some cursory plays that I've had so far. The different fighters are definitely different. So when you get a different enemy deck, you are prepared to get the 13 minions out, put the rubber bases on all of them until you just break down and get the paint pens and just do it another way, because these rubber things are kind of annoying. And of course, these bases, I painted on my Blood Rage minis, so I tried to see if the bases would just fit those, but they don't. They're just a different size altogether. So you're kind of stuck with these rubber things until you pull out some miniature paint or until you get some paint pens. That's where I'm at right now. I can read this flavor text that the fighters win. Escaping the installation took all of your cunning and tested all of your skills, but eventually you pushed through the heavy steel doors and out into the jungle. Where are you? As you rush up the hill away from the installation, you see a bunker in the distance. Advance to part 2A. So it's at this point when I played with the hero story deck with Brandon that then I somehow ended up at a casino in the States, and it just didn't make any sense. I was like, I can't do the story mode with Brandon anymore, at least not with the island getaway. I'll see if there's some better thematic combos of hero story and location story, because Brandon and his macchiato are clearly not made for me. But that's about it. You see the power of loot. I ended up using all of it. I do like getting some loot tokens. If you blitzed these bosses true solo, you probably could kill most of them in the first 3 or 4 turns. It's probably a little higher risk. I didn't have the defense tokens in play. Remember, it took me a while to get my second tactic out. So you're a little bit more vulnerable. It's not that hard to get 20 damage stacked up on you if you're not pretty strong with defense tokens. Part of me, I'd probably avoid the blitz because I find it even less satisfying. Again, if you're giving me a boss that has 60 health, because if it's 20 per, if you're playing with 3 heroes, I could see that being really fun. But again, that's a pretty sprawling game if you're trying to imagine all these fight areas laid out and all the enemies that would be out here. So there were 2 enemies left in this deck, 2 events, a tactic and gear. Definitely didn't see some of the more interesting stuff with Dmitri, but again, the modified RPG, it hurts him just as much as it hurts you, especially if you have any kind of defense tokens. There's a weird thing with the rules too. If it says that an enemy will attack each fighter within 4 spaces, you actually do roll different dice for all of those attacks. But if it says it attacks and then there's a comma and then it says targeting 2, then you just roll once and you apply the damage equally to both. Again, I just find some of the rules really strange and unnecessarily non-intuitive. I mean, if you're going to have a rule like that, I don't want to sound like too much of an Arkham player here, but give me some bolded keywords so I know exactly what the frig I'm supposed to be looking at, and it just catches my eye, and it will trigger me like, oh yeah, great. In the index, that word means this. So if you're going to have an effect like that, you got to give me some keywords. You got to make the user experience better. You know, if you're playing this game all the time, great, that's fine. But that doesn't really work for the average person who's not going to be playing this every day, especially with so many other games calling for attention on our tables. Speaking of which, I am going to get another game on my table right now, but we'll be back with Streetmasters. I am far from done with this game. I know I shared my share of gripes. You know, I think it's just me being fair when I'm putting a game out there. I can see the assumption like Greg loves this game. I like this game. It's good. It's probably not a forever game for me, but it's good enough to explore some more for sure. I'm really curious about some comments, love some feedback, some takeaways, some things that people do with this game that they like it more. One of the things I've gotten more sensitive to, and it's been with some of the conversations around Return to Dark Tower as well, which has some issues, true solo being a little bit easy, but like the designer's like, well, if you do this, and this, you can really ramp up the difficulty. It's like, I'm a new player to this game, man. Don't make that so hard for me. Like, I'm never figuring that out. Like, give me some guidance, right? You can play this game in arcade mode, and I think that's interesting. I also like a little bit of narrative infused in my games, which is why I'm kind of drawn to the story modes, even though I don't find that they work well with the hero story modes, at least not in this combination here. So I don't know. Why not give me a list of, hey, combine this and this and this, or this and this and this, and those are some really great challenges. Give me a hierarchy of challenges. Give me some Street Fighter tournament setup or some Mortal Kombat tournament. Like, here are your matchups. Here's where you're starting. Here's where you're going. You have this one mode where it's like story mode, but the stories are just really clunky in a sense, at least when you try to think about them thematically and how the narrative comes together. And then you have this other mode, which is going to like choose your own adventure. But like, I don't know what the hell's going on with this game. So it doesn't totally work for me in this particular sense, where I would expect some story if you're, giving me like 80s action movies all thrown into one. Or if your story is not going to make sense, I would expect your mechanics to just sing, and they just, they're fine. It's not like the never ending scalable challenge of Maze Knight, and it's not like the awesome, super puzzly game that is Spirit Island, right? This game isn't super puzzly. It's not like Cthulhu Death May Die, where you're just chucking some dice and crushing some monsters. There's a little bit more than that, but I just worry that maybe not all that much more than that. And I just find the puzzle a little bit lacking. And as I said a couple of times already, that could just be a product of playing with Brandon, who just can pile on damage so ridiculously well. We have 7 more sages. We have 2 more enemy decks. We have 4 more heroes. We will definitely have a couple more playthroughs to put on the channel for sure. Dmitri, you have been defeated, sir, and you will just lie right there with your freaking bazooka strapped to your back. I'm sorry, it's a modified RPG 7, I guess. And Anastasia, they're all upset that their beloved Dmitri had such a tough time. They're just gonna run away. And Boris is like, oh no, wait for me. And that's how Boris talks. And I'll take Dimitri's ugly face off the board as well, because that was weird. They're twins. They're twins. All right. Speaking of weird, I'm getting weird. If you want to see what's coming up in Solo Playthroughs land, go on my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. There you will find a public post that I put out about a week before every month, sometimes the first day of a month. I don't know, it just depends on the month, but that will tell you what's coming up in the month that we're in, plus a sneak peek at the following month. While you're there, if there is a tier of support that makes sense for you, I would appreciate it. In the meantime, any questions, comments, epiphanies, put them in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And until next time, happy gaming.